All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Launchpad podcast. In this episode today, I interviewed my buddy Cameron Leids, who has his own platform, his own podcast. You should go check him out. He's awesome. But yeah, Cameron's on this really interesting journey right now. He just recently sort of separated himself from the hustle culture that is Western society, and he has moved to, I think it's Pisac, Peru, something like that. It's this really interesting, like, hippie expat. I don't want to say colonialized. This town in Peru with a bunch of white people taking ayahuasca, and it's a lot more than that. I don't mean to be derogatory in any sort of way. It's a very complex subject, and we actually dive into that within this episode. But Cameron's great. He's doing some interesting things. We talk a lot about some of his ayahuasca insights and just sort of the evolvement of this psychedelic space in general. So yeah, I hope that you enjoy it. Peace out. Much love.
I saw your little snippet on Instagram earlier of like, I moved from Denver to Peru. And I think that like encapsulating that in general is going to be some really, really good stuff for you, man. Just because like it is an actual journey, but like I think that particular town, what is it, Pisac, Peru? Pisac. I think people are going to enjoy learning more about that place.
Dude, it's a pretty interesting place, I'll say. So like, I mean, one of the things that I said in that video that was, definitely to kind of grab people's attention, but also true is like, feels like it's a spiritual orgy for gringos. Like it's a big expat town. Like I'd say honestly, probably more than 50% of the people here are expats. And so like are not locals that are from here. And they've all come here for their own, spiritual reasons. Everybody's going on a fucking medicine retreat like every other week and, kind of shit like that. Everybody here's a healer in their own right in some way.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I don't like painting negative pictures of things, and I'm not doing this to like get views and like, cause controversy or anything like that. It's more of just I've only been here for about a month now and just trying to be as objective as possible and like, point out the flaws that I see in a place and also point out the things that are great about it. And of course, it's also just my opinion at the same time. Like I do not have final say over everything. I don't ever want to pretend like, my voice is the only one that matters. But, there's also like a lot of really like cool down to earth people that are here too. And so it's just about like anywhere you go, it's about finding what community do you genuinely resonate with, and who are the people within that you actually want to be like hanging out and collaborating with and like doing stuff with. And so being here for about a month now, I'm still slowly figuring that out. Also, I've been unfortunately really sick, like the past like 3 weeks on and off, just keep getting sick and then getting better and then getting sick and getting better. And I don't know if it's just adjusting to, being in just a brand new country that has, different bacteria, different viruses, like all of that stuff that my body's not used to. Also just the genuine like shock to my body. Like I'm a pretty sensitive being, I would call myself. And so I'm definitely just sensitive to different energies and just being in a different place and like kind of planting my roots down in a new place. So I think that has a little bit to do with it as well. Kind of just, I think like shedding this old version of myself that I've been for, at least the last 2 years that I was in Denver, and like really kind of stepping into this new version of me that, I'm really excited to just kind of sit back and adapt to a slower pace of life. That was kind of one of the reasons I wanted to be here. And I could still, though, like since I've been here for the month, like I've still definitely been in the same mindset of like, okay, cool, I'm here. Like now I got to do this. Now I got to do this. Like now I got to start this new business. Now I got to start doing my YouTube. Now I got to go on this retreat. And like, I'm still in that same mindset. And I think that sometimes getting sick is my own body trying to tell me like, yo, slow the fuck down. Like there is no rush, dog. Like you are right where you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an incredibly complex matrix of things that makes a human sick. Like, yeah, you can brush up against and quote unquote catch something, but then you also
Hmm.
have to have like a certain level of immunity that is susceptible to it. And then like there's this whole storm of things. And I definitely think there is probably sort of a spiritual psychosomatic nature with that. I've experienced that myself as well too. So I guess like, well, first of all, one thing I wanted to ask you about when you're describing this town, and something that's become like really interesting to me to learn about the world as I've gotten older, and like I really didn't realize this about the world until I became like a young man, really like probably 18, 19. But the fact that there was this worldwide, pretty much worldwide, excluding a few countries, but pretty much worldwide phenomena of like expats, like of, I don't want to necessarily call it colonialization. I don't think that's
Mm.
the appropriate word. Now, some people would argue that that's the right word, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't realize for a long time that there was this large sort of global phenomena of Westerners populating and farming, forming almost like colony like things, and uh, all these other countries around the world, right? And now I truly, I have not looked into this enough. I don't know exactly where I stand with this. I think there's probably a spectrum to it, right?
Yeah.
But I've heard people sort of like uh, put forth this argument that it's not always a good thing.
Mm.
What do you think about the whole sort of like expat phenomenon, given that you're kind of like living it? And it's not to say like where you're at might be like it sounds beautiful, like it might be a overall karmically great thing. I think everything's kind of happening for a reason anyways, but like, yeah, what do you think of the whole expat phenomenon?
I think everything really does come down to intention. And
Mm-hmm.
once again, everything I'm about to say, this is my opinion, but like, there are certain ways that when you do move to a new place, like one, recognizing that this is not my home. I was not born here. Like, this was not where my soul chose to come down and incarnate into a human being. My soul chose to do that in the United States for whatever fucking reason. So like this is not my home. And like having that recognition that this is not my home, and then realizing that, I think I have a personal responsibility to, I mean, just this is true of anywhere you go, but just like act respectfully towards the people that this is their home and that this is their land. And like having it in my mind is, how can I give back more than I am taking from this land? And
Mm-hmm.
so, that's obviously a personal journey for everybody in figuring that out. But, this actually really came about from a conversation I had with one of my friends the other day, and she works really closely with ayahuasca, and I've sat with her a few times. Um, just like a dear sister of mine, Emily Weichel, shout out to her. But uh, I was just telling her how like I've been getting sick and all of this stuff, and she asked me this question. She's like, "Have you sat and meditated, and like have you asked for consent from the land for you to plant your roots there?" And I was like, "No, I haven't
Mm.
done that at all. Like I've prayed to the mountains, and I've really sat here and like thanked it for being here, but I have not asked for consent." And she
Mm.
told me this story about how she went to Tulum like 5 years ago, and she moved there for about 6 months, and everything was kind of going wrong the second she got there. And then it was her mentor that told her, that basically like posed that question to her. And then when she started doing that, she's like, everything turned around in that moment. And so now I've just been sitting and kind of marinating with that, of really like, again, asking for
Mm-hmm.
consent from the land and asking, hey, what can I do while I am here
Mm-hmm.
to give back to you, and make sure that we're not just colonizing this land more than it's already been colonized. And I do also want to add that as a point, is it's not like people from America are the first people that are coming to colonize this land. Like the Spanish were obviously the first people that went and did that. Like there's a giant church right in the town center, um, and this land is traditionally populated by people that are from the Quechua culture. So they're Quechuan, which was like pre-Incas. And so like even the Incas, like the Incas were colonizers in this land too. So like, you know, it's like how far do you want to go back is kind of the thing. But
Mhm.
that's not really like a fun game to play. So it's like, okay, like here's where we are. So knowing where I come from, knowing that again, I'm just not local here. It's just making sure that like I'm acting in integrity while I am here in this land and giving, at least just trying to give more than I'm taking. But like I don't know, the expat phenomenon like in general is definitely interesting to me, because like even in this town, and I've talked to some people that were like some of the first gringos that like really came here um like 15 years ago, because that's really I think where it started in this specific place in Pisac. And
Interesting.
he was just telling me that like, you know, even here now, like the prices have, especially over the last like 5 years since COVID, the prices have gone up like a ton to live here, and
Mhm.
it's still cheap as fuck. But like
Yeah.
the prices have gone up significantly, and it's, you know, I understand it makes it harder for locals to then live here and you know have the lives that they want to. So you know, just being mindful of what that's doing. And you know, I don't think I have an answer for whether there's a positive or negative in this, but I mean, one of
Uh-huh.
my reasons that I did want to move here is like one to work with ayahuasca, you know, and this is one of the not even here specifically, really the jungles of Peru, but obviously it's pretty accessible here as well, and it's legal. But you know, to work with that medicine in one of the original places that it actually comes from some of those communities. But then also too, like, you know, I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to do all of these things, and having the weight of how much it costs to live in a city like Denver, Colorado, you know,
Yeah.
and trying to make rent and also still wanting to like be social and do my own things, it was just getting hard for me. It's getting like really hard to focus on building myself up while knowing like, oh fuck, am I gonna have enough money to pay rent next month?
Yeah.
So, you know, coming here and being able to take a little bit of that weight off my shoulders and not have to worry about that as much is definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to come here too.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, my camera battery just exhausted. That was the whole sort of issue I was having right before we recorded this. So I'm gonna let them charge up for a minute, um, and then I'll put it back on and stuff. But can you still hear me okay
Yeah,
and
I can
everything like
still
that?
yeah, I can still hear you fine.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, man. So everything you just said, I really thought that this part where your friend was telling you to meditate and ask the land for permission, I found that really interesting. Like asking um, the sort of like field, if you will, for permission,
Yeah.
right? This energetic matrix of beings and spirits and all sorts of things, right? And then like if you think about it, at least at the material level, what it 100% serves as is at least a sort of psychological anchor, right? Of like sort of gratitude, where if you're consistently asking for that permission, you're kind of reminding yourself of the fact that you're privileged to have like the access and the ability to,
To do something
interact
like
with.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so every day you're kind of anchoring to that as like a psychological gratitude sort of anchor. So at the material level itself, it's beneficial. But I think simultaneously there is this sort of like spiritual like field thing that you're kind of interacting with and tapping into. And so that makes a lot of sense. It honestly does. That would be beneficial. And also it would make sense that it could lead to this sort of like negative effect within the person living any sort of. I feel like most sicknesses, diseases are what they are is disharmony, right? um
Yeah.
Not, it's the opposite of harmony. And it sounds like you're a bit like in disharmony with your environment and things around you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this segues really well into kind of the introduction of all of this. I would love for you to kind of tell people, give people, kind of quick rundown, go into as much detail as you would like to about your background, a bit about your story, and how you ended up in Peru.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess where it really started, I guess maybe even before that, but it actually kind of started with me going to Peru about 2.5 years ago. And that was to sit with ayahuasca for the first time. But before that, I'll even start it there, just like my kind of personal, mental health journey and where I came from. But I came from a world of like startups and tech, and like that was my background. I grew up just outside of Los Angeles, which is like a pretty big like startup hub. Um,
Yeah.
and just like my dad was also like an angel investor and like pretty involved in that, and before that he was a lawyer specifically like for mergers and acquisitions for all those tech startups and shit like that. So that was just kind of the world that I came from and what I grew up in. And also too, just with my own family, like money was always kind of a struggle for us, and it seemed like that was just like a major factor in why maybe we didn't all get along all the time, and things like that. So like money and just like thinking about money really kind of shaped how I grew up and what I wanted out of life.
Yeah.
So that led me to like going to college, being really involved in startups, dropping out for a semester to work for a startup. After I graduated, I got a job working in tech sales at a startup, and I was making six figures within my first year out of college. And so like as far as I was concerned, my money problems were kind of solved at that point. But I just did not feel fulfilled at all.
Isn't that a weird feeling, dude?
Yeah,
when you think you've crossed the finish line, you're like, shit, no, I just start. You're like, I just started.
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. Like I have enough money right now to do whatever the fuck I wanted. But what I didn't have at that point was time. Like I didn't, I couldn't just, take a week off and like fuck off without somebody still needing something from me, and without me still having like this quota looming over my head that like I needed to constantly be producing. And like that was my entire sense of self-worth, was how much could I be producing for somebody else or for something else. And it just left me feeling kind of empty. And I'll also say that, once when I was in college, before that, like I was definitely very anti-drug. Like I thought like all drugs were bad. I didn't even really smoke cannabis. I did drink a lot of alcohol though. Alcohol was obviously not considered a drug, just the way that I grew up. That was like its own separate category. I now see that there's a gigantic flaw in that logic. But
it's a weird alcohol culture, man. I also grew up in that as well too. I find it bizarre the level that it's both not only accepted but encouraged.
Dude, it's literally encouraged. Like that is the crazy thing to me. Like as I've just continued to go down this route, like nobody even questions it. Like nobody questions like why is alcohol legal and why are all of these other things illegal. And then when you do start to kind of have those conversations with people that aren't uneducated, they just kind of repeat the same propaganda that we have been given by the government, like by the DARE program and by all of that, but without really questioning, okay, wait, like why did that actually start to begin with, and going back to the history, which we can obviously talk about. But to continue on with the story, I did end up trying drugs like when I was in college, just because like I had some really good friends, and some of them were like some of the smartest people that I had ever met, and like they smoked cannabis and like they did mushrooms and they did cocaine. And like I was like, okay, like these fuckers are like about to be like doctors and like physicists and shit. So I don't think that doing drugs inherently makes you like a stupid person. And so that kind of opened my eyes. And honestly, like the drug for me that did actually really like kind of open things up was cocaine, which I don't touch anymore. But like that was it, where I was like, oh shit, okay, this is kind of fun.
I did not know that about you, Cameron. That's really interesting, dude. I want to hear more about that.
I started selling cocaine in college.
Oh, really? Yeah, dude. I sold drugs in college too. I went to jail for it.
You did? I didn't go to jail. I'm I'm very blessed, and I realize how blessed I am. Like that shit could have gone very sideways very quickly, and I'm
Yeah.
incredibly blessed that that did not happen. But
I had
um,
lots of friends in college who sold cocaine. Most of it was like lower level, kind of like this
it
attempt
was
to kind of pay for their own and things like that. But it was interesting seeing like guys you wouldn't think who would turn like there was this one guy I knew, Garrett, who was just this computer guy. Like he was just really kind of nerdy and sweet and like to himself and quiet and like even at a lot of parties and stuff. They lived in this fourplex apartment. There was like four rooms and one big main room. There
mhm.
was a lot of parties there and stuff, and Garrett would usually like I don't know, just kind of stay reserved and stuff. But yeah, he started doing cocaine, and it was just interesting to see this sort of like uh, character morph and like it was what I kind of appreciated about it though. I did it with him like once or twice.
Mhm.
And not that once again I haven't done cocaine in a long time. It's not my particular cup of tea, but there was I'm telling you, dude, there was a couple of moments where we really like bonded slash it almost felt like at least in the moment it almost felt like we broke through together and there
Yeah.
was this so like I don't know, dude, I think cocaine might have some like if used intentionally, right?
If used intention, like I I think about this often. Like drugs, regardless of what they are, like have been used throughout human history as a way to help break down barriers. Like even going back to alcohol, like I don't think like I still drink sometimes. I don't think that all alcohol is bad, and there are a lot of
Yeah.
people, especially in the spiritual community, that like hardcore judge you if you still drink alcohol, and I think it's really funny.
Dude, I
Uh,
love having a glass of whiskey with like my stepdad or something. You
mhm.
know what I'm saying? Like at a summer like barbecue, sitting there with my stepdad talking about like fucking politics and war stories, and we're two glasses of whiskey deep. Like that's almost like ceremony to me, man. Like it's not that I want to do that every afternoon to relax, but like fucking every now and then, yeah, dude. And now like cherish it and like and be fully aware of the trade off as well too that I'm taking with my body. Like, oh, I need to like hydrate, eat some good like fruit
Mhm.
afterwards, you know, something like that. Like, but yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm not completely like against alcohol either. I do have this sort of like thoughts and opinions about the alcohol culture in general and alcohol abuse, and not like in a judgmental way, just in a very real like, hey, this is extremely prevalent and
Yeah.
extremely problematic.
I mean,
But I do
I
think,
was binge drinking when I was in college. Like that was I was
yeah.
binge drinking at least 3 times a week. Like Thursday, Friday,
So,
Saturday, you could count on me probably having at least 10 drinks every single day. Like
yeah,
I mean, that's terrible for my body.
people who drank a lot in college, I feel like there is, and this is a bit of an oversimplification, but I think there's kind of something to this.
Mhm.
Uh, People who overdrank in college, I think there was like two groups, like the ones who genuinely appreciated the sort of like overwhelming GABAergic sort of you know stimulation, sedation, and all the things, right? Like they actually enjoyed the effects, and I
Mhm.
think like the other group is people who like somewhat enjoyed that, but more so just enjoyed and wanted to participate within the entirety of like the kind of social matrix of like
Yep.
not only are we all getting together, but we're all getting together to kind of like be rowdy, and also we're staying up late and there's music playing, and oh, I think I might want to meet a girl or I might want to meet a guy, and I want to be like relaxed to be able to like hang out and talk to people, and like there's this whole matrix that kind of encourages, and then of course like people quite literally being like shots shots,
Yeah.
like it's and so like I do, but like so I met people and I knew people who it seemed like they would drink on their own as well too, and I could tell like they genuinely like enjoyed the like drunk feeling. Then
Mhm.
there was people who enjoyed like more so like the party social matrix of it all. I feel like more so.
That
Um,
was definitely me, was the second one. Like I was
yeah,
never somebody like if I were like if I just went out to dinner, like I'd never order a beer. Like I was like I don't
yeah,
like this isn't the time to drink right now. Like I just I mean also too it was more of like a not always being able to afford that type of thing. But
yeah,
like I was never one to like enjoy, coming home from a day after work and like, cracking open a beer and just like sitting on the couch. Like I don't think I ever did that one time in my entire life. For me, it was always a social thing, and it was to break down social barriers. And like alcohol,
Yeah.
and that's one of the main uses of alcohol. Again, if you go back throughout human history, it's to help break down social barriers. Like everybody, for the
Hmm.
most part, like we're kind of guarded, especially between different communities. And that's a like an evolutionary thing. Like it's a biological thing to not trust every single person that you come into contact with, because you need
Hmm.
to protect yourself a little bit. And so being able to then have a couple drinks helps to break down those barriers and lower inhibitions. And there can
Hmm.
be positives that do come out of that. It can help people actually bond at the end of the day. But then
Yeah.
again, it kind of comes back to like, what is the intention that you are using this for? And in
Right.
college, I don't think I ever had any sort of thought process or like feeling around like, what is my intention when I'm using alcohol right now? Like looking back on it, it's easier to see. But at the time, absolutely, like I didn't give a fuck what my intention was. It was just like,
Yeah.
we're all partying, we're all drinking. I want to meet people. I fucking suck at talking to girls, so this makes it way
Yeah.
easier for me. So,
Right.
that
Yeah.
was the reason I did that. Back to
100%.
cocaine though. I do want to like just kind of make a note on that. Is like I you know I certainly don't think that it is the healthiest thing in the world, but like to what you were saying, there were absolutely times where it did help me bond with certain people.
Hmm.
But the interesting thing about cocaine and why like my overall stance on it is like I don't really think there's any good use for it is, I, especially after I kind of like stopped doing it as much and stopped selling it, it's like I really just started thinking of like the supply chain of how cocaine gets made and how it ends up to
Yeah.
me as the end user, and really
Hmm.
thinking about like what is all of the energy that it
Hmm.
is absorbing along the way, and then thinking about that energy now going into my body. Like
Yeah.
cocaine is not something that's made with love. Like
Yeah.
there's almost nothing that you can possibly get that's really made with like a pure intention of like, let's help people bond together. Like that shit is deadly. People get, I mean, through the supply chain, people are probably getting killed somewhere along the way. There's probably child/slave labor somewhere along the way. It's quite
Oh,
literally made with fucking gasoline that's getting
yeah.
like poured on top of it to help do like the chemical process. And so really just thinking about that entire process, like that's what kind of turned me off of it the most, is like I just don't want to participate in this process
Yeah.
that I know is not good for humanity.
Right. So this is a very, very interesting rabbit hole that I want to jump into, but I'm gonna switch my camera over real quick here, so it's gonna
uh,
like pause the recording. Okay. So yeah, this like sort of cocaine supply chain, this cocaine black market that you're describing. I agree with you. Not only is there like bad energy involved with it, but it's actually like incredibly toxic at a lot of stages and like that. But so like let's have sort of like a brainstorming session here around this and think about this though,
mm-hmm,
because it started taking my mind to a lot of different places when you're going on a cocaine tangent. It's like, what if it was opened up within the United States, within the sort of free market here and the current sort of already established all these different cannabinoid conglomerates and all the different legal highs and cannabis companies and psychedelic companies and stuff. Now, what if it was opened up to where people were 100% allowed to import their own coca leaves, create their own extracts and things like that, right? Like truly like make them like do it well and things.
mm-hmm,
Um, I could see like the end product of that potentially having some really good energy, right? But this is like, but also one thing that my mind started to go down was like, oh, there's certain substances that I have absolutely taken where it's like, yeah, I trust the guy who I get it from, and he says it
mm-hmm.
came from this French chemist, and then like I reagent test it on the spot, and it looks good, looks clean, nice shards, really good experience, right? I'm talking about ketamine, right?
Yeah.
But like and some black market ketamine that it would get powderized and then insufflate. It's just a theoretical scenario, right?
Mm-hmm. Of
But like,
course.
say it's given all of these parameters where it seems like it's good ketamine, but
Mm-hmm.
truly I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? What if the
Yeah.
guy making it like did it on the skillet angrily while he was yelling at his dog and like
Yeah,
fucking
bro.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, bro. And so it's kind of hard. Same thing with like MDMA and a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
others, and almost any of these really popular and pathogenic psychedelic mind altering like substances where it necessitates, due to the law, that people have to get it through the black market. That's almost an inevitability that this happens. This entire kind of conversation reminds me a lot of. Have you ever read Dr. Carl Hart's book, Drug Use for Grown-Ups?
I have not read it, but I have it.
So good, dude. Yeah, absolutely. Take this as your universal nudge to read it, because like when you read it, you'll know like intuitively, like I kind of like I've already felt a lot of this, or already know a lot of this, but he does a really good job of distilling a lot of it down from like 20 years worth of research into addiction as a professor. um, and yeah, there's this massive global sort of deep state and incentive structure that profits from this crazy whole war on drugs and things. And we both know that's its own whole crazy rabbit hole. But yeah, man, when it is illegal, it does open up the door for some bad potentialities.
For some shady shit to happen. But like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be like really curious, like to try cocaine again if I knew, like, if I knew the person who's making it and I know the process and I know everything about it. Like, I'd be really curious about it in that sense. And like, I mean, even kind of talking about like what this is making me think of is like, and I'm sure we're going to get into this a little bit deeper, but when I think about how ayahuasca is traditionally made, um, like it is a ceremony in which it's made. It's not like people are just like taking the vines and taking the leaves and throwing them in a pot and doing it like that. Like, I mean, I know some of the best ayahuasqueros, the way that they're creating it is like they're singing Icaros into the ayahuasca the entire, like, for 8 hours that they're creating it. They're like making sure that the field is fucking free. They're blowing mapacho smoke everywhere to clear the energy. They're burning Palo Santo again. They're calling in different guides, different spirits to help clear the space and make sure that it is as pure as it possibly can be. And like, that is what makes good ayahuasca. Like, you can shove as much fucking chacruna leaf and DMT in there as you want, but if you don't have like a clear energy field while you're creating it, and if you don't have the right intentions, and if you're not infusing it with that healing power, it's going to be shit. And so like, that's what's really interesting to me, is like that energy that goes into the creation. And like, again, what's the intention behind why you are creating this thing? Because like, I think anything that's created with a pure intention to profit at the end of the day is always going to have a little bit of dark energy in there. um it's not always going to be the most pure thing. Now obviously you can have an intention to profit at the same time, while also having an intention to like help people connect and have a good time and do all of that stuff. Like, I don't think that
Mm-hmm.
capitalism is the root of all evil, but I think that it certainly has been taken to a place right now where it's probably creating a little bit more harm than good, and probably just needs to be reevaluated in the way that we interact with it. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, man. This thing that you're describing of the whole preparatory work going into, and the ceremony itself that exists around, say something like ayahuasca, and the importance of that. I 100% agree with you. I do think that that is so incredibly vital. I think that that's like, but also it's something I've been exploring a lot with others and within myself. And I've thought about this for a long time. I feel like the experience itself is while that is a necessary, very vital part of it, it is a lot more than that. It's like the entirety of your being and your like entire existence. Like it's like sort of like it's your entire life. It's how you live your life. And especially if you're
Hmm.
somebody who revisits these things and develops a relationship with it, I feel like that it becomes even more so true, that it's
Yeah.
what comes through in the experience is how you live your life away from the smoke that's being blown beforehand and
Uh-huh.
stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and
Truth.
I saw this really interesting study come through. I think it was double blind. I'll see if I can like link it in the show notes or the description afterwards after I dig it back up. But there's a study done where they found that long-term consistent meditators across the board had like significantly more had significantly better trips than people who weren't. And it
Hmm.
made complete total sense to me with my own experience and what I've seen with others and things like that. And there is this centeredness that seems to be important. And what you're describing about like blowing the smoke and doing all these things beforehand, I think it's because, and I'm not like articulating this into human words right now, right? So it's not perfect, but like there's this sort of like portal being opened up there.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that the smoke and all of that being blown beforehand, calling in certain beings, is incredibly important for that portal, but also what exists within like your own soul and like
Hmm.
how you live your life. Like I think that's going to help you a lot in your transversing of these things, this centeredness, if you will,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. Is that I kind of just went on like a psychedelic Jesus rant, but with that,
No,
does that resonate with
it
you,
it
man?
it definitely does, and I mean, it even kind of brings me back to like the beginning of this conversation of like, when people are doing that, like again, it's not just about blowing the smoke, and it's not just about calling in the spirits. It's like it's actually like almost the opposite. It's actually being silent and being still to listen to what does this space need right now? Like what does the field call for? Not what do I want to add to the field? It's what is the field asking for to do this? And it's asking for consent. Like it's asking grandmother ayahuasca, what do you want right now to show up in like your purest and highest form? Like what is it that you want? How can I be of service to you? not
Yes.
not me trying to create something and like force what I think you need. It's like really like shutting the fuck up and listening and like being in that stillness and the
Uh-huh.
silence and realizing that all of the answers that you want are right there. Like you
Yeah.
just need to be silent long enough to be able to listen to them. You don't ever have to force anything. You just need to listen and then act and then be and then do. And it's just like that balance.
Hmm. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Chills went down my spine a second ago. We talking and simultaneously thinking about this aspect of consent. Because we
Hmm.
started off the conversation earlier talking about that with the sort of like physical and spiritual field that you're in over there in Peru, right? And
Hmm.
then you're kind of relating this to like the ayahuasca matrix. And it what just bubbled to my mind was something that I've done for a very long time with this sort of matrix and ritualization that I have around vaporizing NN dimethyltryptamine.
Hmm.
And this isn't every time, but this is quite often. This is like probably like at least half the time or
Hmm.
something like that, maybe even more. What I'll do is if I'm about going in for a big experience or for multiple big experiences sometimes within a night, I will first have like a third kind of like halfway medium sized dose to ask for consent to like come. Like it
Hmm.
will be like this brushing up into like the waiting room to ask for, and I will purposely gauge my doses and everything like that so I can get to this place of not fully being there to ask for consent first. And something that I used to do for a long time, I say for a long time, something I used to do back in college for a little bit was facilitate these experiences for other people as well. People who wanted to vaporize, DMT, and something that I would like in the whole ritual thing that I had going on there at my apartment is something that I'd usually offer to people beforehand was like, hey, if it would make you feel more comfortable, like I'll do this like before you, like here in front of you, so you can see that like there's nothing to be scared of. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and like a lot of people, I would say like 2/3 of people would be like, yeah, sure, like you know. And so like I was smoking a lot of DMT, and typically what would happen in the process, and once again, this didn't happen every time, but on lots of different occasions, dude, I've specifically asked for consent from these other beings or things, right? For other people to come like within after me, you know, and it's always like this like really excited like, yes, dude. I've
Yeah.
never been told once not to. I've
Yeah.
never been told once not to, but I've always asked for consent though, and that's the this is yeah. So like
You're
it's
acting
bringing
as
a
a
lot to
shaman,
mind for
man.
me.
I fucking you're like, but like intuitively acting as a shaman. Like that's shamanism right there. Like again, you know, there's obviously like, you know, deeper training and like all of that shit that you can do, but like that is sort of like the essence of shamanism, is asking for consent and asking what you need. And like that, this is maybe going to take us down like a whole nother rabbit hole, but you know, I came from Denver, which was one of the first places to legalize plant medicine like mushrooms. You know, one of the first places to fully legalize like cannabis too. But when just talking about like the mushroom regulations, and I am not an expert at all on these regulations and how it's done, but from my understanding, the way that it is going to be done legally and the way that it's being rolled out is that, you know, if I want to go legally take mushrooms with somebody, there has to be like licensed and certified, like, you know, trip sitters to be able to guide me through that journey. Well, guess what? They're not allowed to take mushrooms with me like while I am on that journey. And so people from the medical model and from the Western thing probably think, well, yeah, obviously that makes sense. I don't want the
Mm-hmm.
person guiding me to be like tripping on mushrooms too. But go to any fucking indigenous culture anywhere in
Yeah.
the whole fucking world, and all of them are taking the substance that they are now going to be guiding you in. Like
Yeah.
the curanderas, the maestras, the maestros, the ayahuasqueros, like when they
Mm-hmm.
are taking you through an ayahuasca journey, they're the first ones to drink because they
Mm-hmm.
need to feel the energy and feel the spirit and ask for consent and ask for permission. Can I guide these people through your field? So like it's important to have your own relationship with these substances, and when you don't have your own personal relationship with these substances, which again, this is me just, you know, also maybe being like a little bit pessimistic in the same way, but I think that a large general medicalized rollout of psychedelics, like I don't think it's going to help anybody at the end of the day. I mean,
No,
it'll help people,
it's a
but I think collectively, like it's going to be just as much of a clusterfuck as everything we've ever tried to do to fit into our model that puts profit over
yeah.
people. Is it's just
Yeah, dude.
it's not going to work. Like you see it with the cannabis industry
100%.
right now. Most dispensary weed is fucking trash. Like it's never
Mm-hmm.
seen the sun. They're all trying to get the highest fucking THC percentage you ever want. Every time I smoke that shit, I'm just like sitting on the couch with like anxiety, going through these thought loops and like wishing it would end. Like I fucking hate it. And
Yeah.
like, but cannabis is beautiful medicine. Like if you look at the traditional use of cannabis, of people
Yeah.
that are growing it with care and using it with intention and using it in ceremony, like they're having completely different experiences because of the inputs and because of the permission that they're asking from that plant to be able
Mm-hmm.
to actually like commune with it responsibly. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
I,
it's yeah, here you go.
Yeah, no, I could say there's a lot there. I could talk almost endlessly about this particular subject, but I've been saying this too, man, for a good couple, 2 or 3 years now almost. And like, it feels like this carrot on a stick with the whole sort of westernized, medicalized model of it all. It just intuitively does not feel within alignment. I would legitimately rather have some random fucking sweaty dude who's taken acid 30 times be my guide and,
100%.
rather than some professor guy who's got
That's
20 years of psychotherapy experience under his belt, who's taken mushroom once in a controlled clinical set. Fuck, I'd rather go with the acid head. You know what I'm saying? I would
100% of the time. I mean, like,
confidently roll with the acid head in that scenario.
I don't know the statistics, the actual statistics of it, but like, and I'm not even sure if they really exist, but like, I know that there are a certain percentage of people that go into these now like state licensed official programs to be able to serve people mushrooms who have
Bro,
never taken mushrooms themselves. Like,
dude,
are
it is
you
a
fucking kidding me?
okay. It is a lucrative industry, dude. If you go and you just Google this right now, like you can Google this after our podcast right now, whatever it is, look up um, psychedelic facilitation courses online.
Yep.
Bro, there is these like $1 billion, $1 million, several $1 million psychedelic companies and conglomerates that are investing a shit ton of money into their SEO to rank at these Google searches for to sell you a course
Mm-hmm.
that's fucking $13,000 and 8 months long. You know what I'm saying? Like it is a crazy lucrative industry. There's a lot of people who and it's telling of if that's the case, right? Then there's obviously a demand.
Yeah.
And then it's like telling of the collective and like why is there such a demand for that? Like I do think we do need a lot of that, right? And I do think that a lot of people are getting into it for the right reasons. But like I said, man, I really think there's almost a level of like I think the training. I think you can have mentors and you can have your own shaman and you can go through these courses. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think the real training and mentorship is the time in the field, like with yourself, like in looking like
Yes.
going through the
Yes.
trenches, you know, and like for like sometimes you not that there's like a certain number of years to it or something like that. I'm sure you can become a ninja in 3 months, like Jesus or something, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
like for most people, I think it's probably a several year process, kind of peeling back several layers to get into a place in which they are probably at this kind of like we were talking about earlier. There's this portal thing opening up that we're kind of being able to start to articulate in different ways and things, but we don't fully understand it yet. It's truly like to interact with it. It is very much this from the outside, crazy schizophrenic kind of intuitive dance. Do you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And I don't think you can really wrap that up into an online course just yet. Do you know what I'm
No,
saying? Like,
absolutely not. There's because like it. I mean, it's kind of as you said, like peeling back the layers. I mean, it is centuries deep indoctrination that we have been born into. Like this is it's within our DNA. Like if you've been participating within this, Western way of living, which again is centuries long now at this point, it is so deep within you. Like there's nothing you can do about that. Like it's just there, and like you have to accept the fact that that's simply just there and realize like, okay, so like it's going to take a lot more work for you to undo that shit before you can start like actually tuning into the field. Like I am by no means an expert at it, and like I know I have so much to learn, and that's part of my reason for moving here is realizing like I have so much to learn, and like I need time to just be able to like sit still and like sit with it and like let the lessons come. Like you can't force it. Like you could
yeah,
you could take one of those courses and you could be the top of your class and study the most and be the best, and like you're still probably not going to get it. Like it's a year long process. Like the fact that people think that you can even take an 8-month course and then be ready to like guide people through an experience and be able to contain the spirit that is the mushroom, like that
mm-hmm.
is its own intelligence, its own divine intelligence that was placed on this earth by fucking
Yeah.
God. To think
I think
that,
it's arrogant, man.
yeah,
It's
it's
arrogant.
incredibly arrogant.
It's
It's
almost disrespectful. I think it's
yeah.
also we're kind of like we're missing something in the fact that there's this in order to roll it out, almost feels like it has to be foolproof. It has to be 100% safe. I think we should put all the safety barriers up that we can, educate people, like, you know what I'm saying? But man, like something to accept about this, that is, if this becomes more of a commonplace sort of phenomenon,
Hmm.
there is going to be people who are kind of hurt in the process. And sometimes that's part of the process, if you know what I mean. Like there is some
Yeah.
people, especially from a really powerful psychedelic experience, it seems like people either walk away from it broken or reborn.
Hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? And like sometimes the brokenness is like a long process of rebirth itself.
I,
Or
I was I,
I've
I was
also,
gonna say that, like, if
yeah,
if you don't mind me just interjecting really quick, but
yeah,
like,
yeah, please do.
that that brokenness has been the most positive thing that has ever happened in my life. And now that's obviously the way that I look at it. I know somebody else can have the exact same experience that I just had and come through it and come out on the other side like completely fucking traumatized and like not be able to then take those lessons and like turn them into something greater. But like my two most powerful ayahuasca experiences that I've had so far, one of them being about 2 months ago at this point, like, I mean, shook me to my fucking core, like brought me to my knees and made me question every tiny little thing about my existence that I had ever believed about myself and who I was up until that moment. Like, that's not easy to just sit with and then also go to work the next day. Like, what? Like, there's the, you know, the whole system is what needs to be changed. Like adding psychedelics to a broken system is just going to point out more of the flaws within the system. It's not going to inherently fix the system. But like what psychedelics have done for me, what plant medicine and ayahuasca and mushrooms and even LSD and MDMA, like they help get to the root cause of the problem. But like they don't fix the problem, they help bring to light what the problem is. It's then, you know, everyone says this, it's the integration afterwards. How do you take that and integrate the experience? So like, you know, without even adding psychedelics to the mix, maybe let's just start addressing the root causes of like, I don't know, why are, you know, whatever the statistics are, why are 20% of Americans clinically depressed or anxious at this moment in time? Like, why does that happen? Like that didn't just come out of nowhere. Like that's because
be way more than that, dude.
Yeah, I think it's probably more than that. That might be the statistics of people that are on some sort of medication at this point. Not even including the people that like are suffering from that and don't understand it. But like, you know, you can't try to like, you know, we're trying to fit these people into this certain box, and if they don't fit into that box, they immediately get labeled as sick. But we're not questioning like, well, why is this box this fucking big and I'm this big? Yeah, obviously I can't fit in the fucking box. Like mathematically that doesn't make any sense. So like maybe let's address the box rather than addressing why I can't fit in the box, if that makes sense.
And this thing you described about like had the breakthrough experience, this really impactful experience, and then had to go to work the next day. I think a lot of like modern day, especially Western psychonauts can resonate with what you just said, because there is this dilemma of like reaching the mountaintop and then like bringing it back down off the mountaintop. And there's nothing like, if like you said, when you go to work the next day, there's nothing within our typical sort of society here that helps sort of like reinforce and help you quote unquote integrate that, you know, into your life. You know what I mean? It's like you can go up to your coworkers and be like, man, brother, ayahuasca. You know, it's like, bro, did you get the report done? Like amazing.
Dude, did
love
you know
that?
Do you know that
wow,
God
is the report ready, Gabriel?
Is living inside of us every single moment of our lives.
And like, they're like, sir, this is a Wendy's.
Yeah. I like, oh shit, man, I totally forgot to do that PowerPoint. I'm sorry. Let me get right on that. Like, yeah.
They're like, sir, this is Wendy's. Oh,
yes.
That's funny, dude.
But yeah, it's just really, you know, it's also really easy to get like really pessimistic about this and like super negative. And like I've gone down those routes too. Like I was definitely a very pessimistic person growing up, and like really just, you know, you can hear that life is suffering, and then that can either be like the most crushing thing you've ever heard, or it can be the most liberating thing that you've ever heard. And it's, again, like it's up to how you perceive that. Like when I hear life is suffering, it's like, oh shit, well, if life is suffering anyways, then like I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like who gives a shit? Like that gives me permission to like go actually chase my dreams and do crazy shit and not give a fuck what anybody thinks about me, because like it's all like it's, you know, it's all suffering anyways, so like I might as well try to have some fun with it. Like, you know, life is a
Hmm.
game. Like if you're not actively participating in the game, like it's just going to suck the whole time. So you might as well fucking try to do something, because at the end of the day, whether you succeed or fail, like that doesn't matter. Success and failure is, again, just an objective thing within your own mind. Like there's no objective success or objective failure. It's just how you perceive it. But if you don't try at all, then like you're going to be in the same place. And then you're also not allowing nature to run its course, which is change. Like change is the natural flow of life. Like your body, your soul, your mind wants to constantly be changing. But like, you know, it also wants to be kind of comfortable at the same time. So like understanding what is the balance between like, you know, basic comforts that you need in order to, you know, feel good as a person, and like again, like not have the weight of like, you know, rent and getting food and shelter like be on your mind the whole time. And then also understanding that we need to be doing uncomfortable things in order to like break through to that next level and continue to allow ourselves to grow. Like it's not about forcing growth, it's about allowing the natural cycle of growth to continue to occur without you stopping it. Because like again, that's the natural cycle of things. It's not like you're, you know, when we do all these experiences and plant medicine and stuff, like yes, like I want to grow and I want to get these new insights, but it's not like I'm like forcing it through. Like all I'm doing is, again, just like allowing the natural cycle to work the way that it is supposed to. Whereas the way that our society works is like it's to actually kind of like stop that. And we're probably subconsciously stopping that growth more than we are allowing it to occur. So that's why we kind of need to do all these things now, is to really just let the natural cycle do what it needs to do. I don't know if that
Yeah.
resonates with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been thinking a lot about this dichotomy of like going with the flow of things and operating within alignment within the universe, right? And I was actually speaking to Duncan Trussell about this recently. Believe it or not, we're on like a little Zoom call, which is really cool.
That's
But
fucking sick. I just saw him actually do stand up when he was in Denver last month.
amazing, amazing. Love Duncan. But he was giving me this sort of Buddhist perspective of all of this, and he was saying that human beings are really interesting because if you look at them, a sort of analogy that a lot of Buddhists use for this is that like most people are sort of building a sandcastle. And they're building a sandcastle right next to the ocean. You know what I'm saying? And it's really funny because you watch a lot of these monkeys running around, and they're endlessly, relentlessly building their sandcastle, right? And thinking that, not, you know, accepting the fact that regardless of how big you build this sandcastle, it's going to get knocked down by the ocean, right? It's kind of like this Buddhist analogy of
Yeah.
for life and the purpose of life. And I don't know what the purpose of life is. I resonate and like a lot of the Buddhist teachings, but kind of like all religions, I take with a grain of salt. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, it's kind of like a perspective pointing at the source of it all. But I do like this analogy a lot, and it kind of does resonate with some of my own personal experiences in which, like, I do think that my, like, the business, for instance, is awesome. And like, I'm really proud of that. Right. But like, to me, that's not like why I'm necessarily here, right? Like the business is kind of like a vehicle through which there is like this training ground for the spirit, right? And it's not just the business, a lot of different facets of life, but like these quote unquote sandcastles that people build. Um, I think that's where a lot of people run into issues too. And you see this with like high functioning entrepreneurs who just like can never get enough money, that hungry ghost phenomenon, where it's like, why are you just like
Just
not happy,
chill, dog.
man? Yeah, it's because they're building a sandcastle that it's inevitably going to get knocked over by the ocean, and they know that deep down. Everyone does.
Well,
You know
it
what I'm
did it.
saying?
I think like this almost speaks to like, I mean, everybody is what nobody wants to admit, but you know, most people absolutely have, is like they're just fucking scared of death. Like they're
Hmm.
so scared of death. Like they cannot comprehend the fact that one day you will not be here in this physical form anymore. And it's just subconsciously trying to do everything within your fucking power to avoid the fact that one day you're not going to be here.
Hmm. Yeah, that is, I think, the root sort of the root like, yeah, the root disease, if you will. I think most other diseases kind of spring from that as like a byproduct, as an expression of that core root fear of your own mortality. It's interesting because a few different, there's like a couple different ancient sort of cultures that refer to their sacraments as almost like the immortality key or the immortality elixir, the potion
Hmm.
of immortality. There's this concept of immortality associated with these psychedelic sacraments and these certain states of consciousness. And it's not because like, oh, he took the ergot LSA
Hmm.
fungus drink in 1402, now he like is forever stamped into eternity. No, it just, I think it's like symbolic of like, because he got the download within his lifetime, he got to realize, and that word realize is interesting, to make real, right? Realize. He got to realize that he was immortal. He got to make that real. You know what I'm saying? Got to realize that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Psychedelics
man.
is in plant medicine. It's every download that you get. It's not new information. It's all a remembrance. It's all
Mm.
just remembering what you already knew when you first came into this world in this body. It's not new information. And you know, thinking about that, like, like immortality and using these psychedelics, like in that sense, it's like, it's giving you a direct channel to like speak with source, like to speak with God, speak with the creator, the universe, like whatever you want to call it, and like access your soul, like your divine essence that comes from that. And like when you do that, you realize that, oh, like I'm not this body. Like this is actually not me. This is my current physical form. Like this is how I'm incarnated right now. But like at my very essence, at the very core, this is actually not me. So it's not like realizing like, oh, I'm Cam Leeds and I'm gonna live forever. It's realizing that I was never Cam Leeds to begin with, but like my soul is eternal, and just like, like accepting that, like making making amends with that very fact right there, that like, shit, I'm only here on this earth in this body for a certain period of time. So kind of what I was saying earlier, like might as well try to have fun with it and like do some cool stuff, and like,
Mm-hmm.
try to listen to where my soul is guiding me in this body, because again, like I can't imagine that my soul chose to come into this body for no reason at all. Like it's not my job to figure out what the reason is. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
I've sat and I've meditated on that for hours and hours and hours and probably days and days and days, and I can't quite figure it out. But what I have figured out is like it's not my job to figure it out. Like my job is to accept the blessings, accept everything that comes my way with open arms, and
I love that,
trust
man.
that that's what I'm, like that's what I'm here to do. I'm just here to like
Yeah.
accept and trust and move with the flow. Go with the flow. And like,
Yeah, that's refreshing, dude. Like to hear you say, I don't have to figure it out, because not
yeah.
everyone within the psychedelic esoteric space echoes that. A lot of people have figured it out, as a matter of
Oh
fact,
my
and
god, dude.
they've spent a lot of time doing so. There's Starseed number 987
Dude,
from, you know.
anyone that I meet that claims to like have the answers, I
Mm-hmm.
I tend to run as far away as I possibly can from those people. Like
Mm-hmm.
anybody that is trying to convince you that like they have this knowledge that you don't, like those are the people that are, and whether they're doing it with bad intentions or not. Like I think some people are like that and they genuinely do have good intentions at the end of the day. But like they're they're like kind of like gatekeeping in a way. Like, what I was saying earlier, like every time we use these substances, and like again, like even with deep meditators and people that just have some sort of practice to try to connect to source, none of the information you're given is new. Like all of this information lives inside of every single one of us right now, whether we see it or not. It's just usually the ego that is keeping you from being able to access this part that is already there, that exists within all of us. So like I'm not ever here to give somebody the answers. Like I never want to do that. I can help guide people to what's right for them, but what is right for me is not necessarily right for you. And like being able to have that nuance and like really understand that, like for some people, I'm sure being vegan is probably fucking great. For other people, like they need meat to operate. Like, and I'm not like, there's no right or wrong there. It's just like, what is right for your individual body? And like, can you tune into that field? Like, you know, when I try to help people, it's not helping people by, again, like giving them the answers. It's just like trying to help them listen to their own intuition and like listen to their own inner guidance, and then letting them like flourish from there, like wherever that goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Um, Something I've written down here that I wanted to talk to you about today. I don't know why this popped up, but I was kind of sitting here with my notepad out thinking about certain, because usually how it goes, like I'll have like different topics, things written out, to kind of like go off of, but then like once we start talking, we just kind of like flow in it. But I have this one written down that I think would be interesting to talk to you about, and we've already kind of somewhat brushed up against this a little bit, but we've talked about this field of things, and you even talked about asking for permission from the field. Um, what do you think about this sort of entity contact that you've had so far within your experiences? What has that been like? How has it developed over time? Do you think that it's like, do you think that it is other than you? Because you're in Peru, you've done ayahuasca. You're I assume going to do a good amount of ayahuasca while you're living there and things like that. And ayahuasca is this interesting opportunity where you get to sit with that particular molecule for a pretty extended period of time.
Particular spirit.
Yeah, yeah,
Not just a
and
molecule.
yeah, and yeah, I really wonder, like, what do you think about? Because there's a lot of debate within this particular area of like, yeah, is it a projection of your own mind? Is it something other? What do you think?
That's a great question, and one that I certainly do not have a concrete answer on. Like what I say today could change literally tomorrow, and so I want to be clear about that before I go down this. And also, just like a quick side note to anybody who might be listening to this, you're allowed to have an opinion today, by the way, and just fucking change it tomorrow once you get new information. There's not only no shame in that, but that's actually really good for you to be able to change your opinions when you get new information. But right now, the way that I view it, so like I'll I'll talk a little bit about my last experience that I had with ayahuasca. It's like really really powerful experience, and I was at this place. It was about a month before I knew I was moving here, and everyone, my parents, my friends are like, why are you moving to Peru and all of that? And like, I had this baseline kind of answer, like, well, like I want to do more ayahuasca, I want to learn more from that. And I want to, just experience life in another country and do all of this. But there was still just a lot of general tension about like, what does my future look like? And I've always been kind of somebody who looks to the future a lot and likes to try to have things as figured out as I can. And but I was struggling a little bit with where I was at, and didn't know how to make sense with it and like sit with it and allow the things to come through. And so during this ayahuasca experience, it was just this really really slow build the whole ceremony. I took the first cup, wasn't really feeling much, couldn't really tune in. I was just kind of getting these like little stomach cramps, like I didn't purge at all. And I took the second cup, just like a little bit more of that. I had like I was feeling it a little bit. I had some kind of small insights, nothing that was, breaking news or anything. I was like, oh yeah, okay, like I knew that. Thanks for the reminder. Um, I still didn't think I purged at that time, and then was getting more towards the end of the ceremony. But the curandera, she opened it up for a third cup for anybody who wanted it, and so I went up and told her, I was like, I'm kind of just feel this tension, but I don't know what it is. I can't really get past it. And she just poured like a tiny little like just a tiny little taste, basically. She's like, this will do the trick. And then she gave it to me, and I took that. And, I think I went back to my mat, and like I purged at that point, which for people who don't know, that's either throwing up or sometimes you have to go to the bathroom and have diarrhea. But I purged at that point. And then just like, dude, things just started getting like kind of weird and almost like terror. Like I felt this like terrifying presence there, and it was like really scary, and like it felt like these like clouds were like looming over my head. And then that just kind of kept like building and building and building, and I was sitting with it and sitting with it and sitting with it, and eventually it got to this point where like I saw this image of grandmother ayahuasca like standing over me, like in the most just like truly godly way possible, standing over me, like vines coming off of her, like, the cosmic clouds in the background and serpents like, underneath her and all of this. And her like telling me to like beg for mercy and be like, you don't believe in me, like, essentially like you don't believe in God, like you're having trouble believing in me, you're having trouble trusting me and like trusting that there is a plan for you. So like you need to get on your knees and fucking beg for mercy right now. And like in a very terrifying way, like literally get on your knees and beg for mercy. And so like I literally did that. Like I changed my position and got on my hands and knees and was like bowing down to this entity, like begging for mercy, like, please forgive me, please forgive me, please give me mercy, like, please help me trust, like, please, please, please help me, I need fucking help. And then I was doing that, and I'm crying the whole time too, and like I'm starting to sweat, and just like I'm like almost hysterical at this point. And it was just kind of funny. She's like, "All right, like keep going until you fucking mean it. Like keep begging. Like you think it's that easy? Like, oh no, like you're gonna fucking mean this." And I did that for 2 hours. The ceremony had ended. I was still going through it for 2 hours after ceremony, literally on my hands and knees, just begging for mercy, begging for forgiveness, begging for all of that. And then finally got to the point where it's like, okay, like she could feel, and alternatively I could feel that like I meant it. Like, please help me trust, like please help me believe in the higher power, please like show me mercy. And then it just got like super calm, and in just like a very beautiful way, she then kind of looked down at me and was like you want mercy? Here you go. Like, it's right here. It was right here the entire time. You're the one that's putting yourself through all of this struggle. Like, you're the one that is causing that's not believing. Like, I never did this. I am only a reflection of you. Like me, grandmother ayahuasca, I'm no different than you. So like it's really interesting. And like my first experience with ayahuasca too was like, I felt like grandmother ayahuasca was just kicking my ass the whole time. And then I finally just was able to sit with it long enough to, purge out what it was that I needed to, which was all the shame and guilt. And I remember I came out of the bathroom, and one of the facilitators, like said something to me. Like, he's like, oh, like, she finally done kicking your ass. I was like, yeah, I guess so. And he's like, was it her kicking your ass, or was it you kicking your own ass the whole time? I was like, those like truer words have never been spoken, like ever. Like it's always us doing it to ourselves. Like there is no separation. But yet at the same time, like I do believe in that there is like the spirit of grandmother ayahuasca, and that like she is guiding us. But there, at the same time, there's also no separation between us and the creator. So it's that's a very long-winded answer to say I have no idea whether there is this true separation like between us and these spirits that are guiding us. Like, they're all part of us, and they're all separate from us at the end of the day. Like, it's the idea that like I am an individual human being having this conversation with you, who is another individual human being, yet both of us are all part of the exact same collective consciousness at the same time. So it's,
Right.
part of being human is being able to like understand the duality of existence. And so I think that working with these plants and working with these spirits is no different than that. There's the duality. Like, it is separate from us, and it's just a reflection of us at the exact same time. And like, I'll also say this too, like, plant medicine is not gonna cure you, it's not gonna heal you, it's not gonna like do all of these things for you. It's not a magic bullet, it's not this thing that's outside of you. But like, if you come to ayahuasca with the intention that you genuinely want to heal yourself, like, it's going to give that to you. But if you also come to any of these plant medicines and you want to use them to escape, it's going to give that to you too. Like, it's going to give you exactly what it is that you want. It's usually not going to do it in the way that you want it, but like, it is that reflection of your true inner nature. And like, if you believe deep down that you're a good person, it's going to show you that you're a good person. If you believe deep down that you're a piece of shit, it's probably going to show you that you're a piece of shit. And then it's also going to show you how to love that piece of shit too.
Yeah.
Because that's also a big part of it, is just like self-acceptance within all of that. But I think I just went off on a bit of a tangent there. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I was asking about the entity contact with, and like, it seems like the answer that you ultimately gave me falls in line with what most other experienced sort of psychonauts and travelers and thinkers kind of land on, is this kind of like, well, I ultimately don't know, but it kind of seems like the spectrum of both. You know what I'm saying? Of it is other, but it's also not,
it's separate, but it's also myself. Like, it's, it's the reflection of me. Like, I told one of my friends that lives down here that's been working with ayahuasca really closely under the curandera from my very first retreat for like the last year and a half or so. And like, I told him that story, and he's like, wow, like, I didn't really realize that like, that you needed to do that to yourself. Like, I had no idea that like you were holding all of that in within you. And like, it's so easy for me to put on the mask and subconsciously pretend that like that fear and that terror and anger, and also too like that ability to invoke that type of fear and like invoke that type of terror in another human being, like, that lives within me. And like, I don't want, like, that's my shadow. Like, I don't want to have to admit that I can do that. Like, I never want to make another human being feel that way, but I have to understand that I do have the power to do that. Like, as a human being, I can fucking channel that, and I can do that. And then at the same time, I can then also choose to grant that mercy. And like, I can choose to like not take your fucking head off and just be like, dude, it's fine. Like, I forgive you. Here's the forgiveness that you seek so desperately. Like, here is the help that you want so badly. Like, ask for help. It's a superpower. It's not a weakness. And I think I grew up definitely thinking that I needed to do everything on my own, and that if I ask for help, that is, it makes other people perceive me as weak. And so like, getting over that within my own psyche of realizing that like, no, asking for help is a strength, realizing when I do need help and accepting that help with open arms, like not expecting it, but just genuinely accepting help when people want to help me. Like, that's huge. I think so many people struggle with that.
Yeah, why do you think people struggle with that, man? Because I agree with you. I think a lot of people struggle with that conditioning, I guess.
We're not modeled it. Like, we're not modeled how to ask for help kindly. Like, people want to convince you that like they have the answers and that they know what's up, when really there's just like a scared little child inside that's, again, trying to grapple with the fact that they're going to die one day, and they can't do that. So they build this fucking magnificent sandcastle to make it seem like I have it all figured out. when,
Yep.
really you don't. And
Yeah.
so,
Until the joke hits.
it's
Until the big cosmic
simple.
joke hits.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So last thing I want to kind of talk to you about today before we're going to have to wrap this up. Because I have a meeting here at 12, but something that I've found really interesting, something that there's a lot of actual like research going on in this right now, a lot of media attention. There's a church around this. Um, but then I also have some personal experience with this is just general extended state DMT experiences. And there's a lot of different ways in which you can do this. Like there's the DMTX studies that they're doing at Imperial College of London. It's like intravenous DMT, and you can
Mm-hmm.
go into an extended state through a certain kind of methodology through this intravenous DMT, right, where you're in there for quite a long time. You can do a similar thing. You have to be careful with this, but you can do a similar thing with, say, like taking a large dose of SSRI, or I'm sorry, MAOIs, SSRIs.
Don't do that.
Yeah, take a bunch of Lexapro and then smoke DMT. No, not actually. Yeah, take a bunch of large doses of MAOIs and then smoke DMT. You can be in there for like a long time, especially if you do like that and then like you have some sort of like changa joint or something like that going that you can kind of relight and stay within the experience. Then, of course, there's the tradition and the long-standing use that continues even to this day of ayahuasca, this sort of more traditional oral form of it. And there's also like pharmahuasca, right? And I know I'm kind of like throwing a lot at you right now, but like I say all this because like, have you experimented with any other states of extended state DMT other than ayahuasca?
I have not. I have not myself.
Gotcha.
Like I have not smoked changa. I have smoked like NN-DMT before, but only from a vape cartridge though. So I've never just smoked like actual like freebase crystal NN-DMT, and like really fully blasted off in that sense. Um, I think it's all interesting. Like everything we've been talking about, like it's all just a different experience. I don't think any one is any worse or any better than another, but I think that there are obviously pros and cons to each one. And just the way that I personally like to interact with these substances is trying to be as rooted and grounded in the earth as possible. And so that's why I think like ayahuasca has called out to me so much, is just knowing that there is, such a prolonged history of use throughout human history of this beautiful medicine, and how, I mean, it just grows in the jungle right over there. And it's just these two plants that come together, and when combined in this way with intention and sung to with these ikaros, and brought into this energy field, can create this frequency of such profound healing. Like, I think that's cool as fuck. And like that's just what's called to me to really want to explore it. But I definitely still do explore these other molecules and these other spirits as well. But like that's the one to me that, again, that's why I'm here. It's to learn from that one right now.
Yeah, it's just it's this. I agree with you. It's I think spirit is one of the words that I typically fall back on when I'm trying to describe this sort of this sort of phenomena, right? But like with like traditional ayahuasca, like you're describing, there's a certain spirit to that. There's even like within the alchemization of it, there's kind of spirits that come together, you know. And then with like vaporizing, say, some freebase dimethyltryptamine, it has a very similar spirit, but it's a different spirit than ayahuasca, even though it's like, what I'm saying, the same active.
And
but there's
I've felt similarities between the two, by the way. Like I want to say, like when I've like sat with ayahuasca, and I relatively recently smoked some DMT, I like felt part of like this like really really similar energy there as the ayahuasca was coming on. And like, again, it was just one of those like, oh shit, like, okay, that's like, this is a familiar feeling. Like it's different, but it's familiar at the same time. And those are two
Yeah.
completely different experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, something that like I think is, just actually pharmacologically speaking, the introduction of, say, like MAOIs, whether it be through the oral administration of DMT or the vaporization, changes the experience and adds to the psychoactivity and things like that. But I think it's actually like kind of like we keep saying, like there's like a spirit to it, right? With these certain MAOIs, wherever it's coming from. And something that I've found interesting is I've done Ayahuasca a number of times. Which is, where you it's like you get the free base DMT, you usually encapsulate it. Some people will throw in some orange juice to down it, whatever, but you take that, and then you take your MAOI separately. It's called Ayahuasca because it's very similar, same kind of basic premise, but it's different than ayahuasca. It's not the same spirit, right?
Like chemically, it's kind of the same, but obviously, like, in practice, it's a little different.
Yeah, and experientially as well too. But so like but something that I've experimented with is using within Ayahuasca, using different MAOIs at different dosages. And it's really interesting because like the DMT, vaporizing DMT while under the influence of, say, Syrian rue, legitimately is a much different experience than vaporizing dimethyltryptamine under the influence of some tetrahydroharmine isolate or hydrochloride. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really interesting to see how much it interacts and shifts and sort of changes the experience. And DMT itself just seems to be such this versatile, sort of like safe, very mystical, ethereal compound within the sort of the soup of all the different psychedelic compounds and spirits that there is, right? It's just like DMT is this very much like, and so, I guess that's why I was asking kind of about the extended state DMT stuff. I just find like all the different little flavors of it very, very interesting. And I wonder how it's going to sort of develop over our lifetime as well too,
I'm excited to see where it goes just from like a pure curiosity standpoint. And, I'll kind of just end by saying this too. I also think that like, humans have this, this thing inside of us that once we realize that we can do something, we do it. And I don't think that always needs to be the case. I think sometimes just because we can do something doesn't mean we necessarily should. And, it's kind of one of those, like, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out. And there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to be fucking around and finding out. And, it's up to each of us as individuals to choose, like, where do we want to be on that spectrum?
Amen, brother. And I'm, I always appreciate their trip reports on Reddit too. It's good for the collective anecdotal database. They're doing something. It's important, man. It's important in its own butterfly effect type of way, brother. That schizophrenic Reddit write-up has a much better butterfly effect than we imagine. They know, but. Yeah, dude, I really have to pee, and I have another meeting here soon, so we're going to have to wrap this up. But I've really enjoyed this conversation, dude. Can you tell everybody sort of where to find you and, if you have any sort of last message for people?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one, thank you so much for inviting me on. I know this has been a couple months of like back and forth stuff, and I trust that this ended up being exactly perfect, like where we were both supposed to be when we did this. So, I'm grateful for the opportunity to just come on and like kick it with you and share my experiences and hear about yours. As far as where people can find me, on YouTube at Cam Leids, that's my YouTube channel. So just CAM and then LEID as in David, S as in Sam. That's also my Instagram handle. That's also my TikTok handle. Those are the places to keep in contact with me. And, if you're interested in learning more about, ayahuasca specifically and just kind of, exploring the human experience, that is what my channel is all about. And also talking about what it's like, you know, as an American living in the sacred land of Peru.
Awesome. Thank you so much, brother. I really enjoyed having you on. We will have you on again. It's going to be interesting. There's a bunch of different people within the mycelial network that I know. It's just going to be like, we're going to be potting it up in here in 10 years.
Oh, dude,
too,
it's going to be great.
It's going to be cool to see it develop. But much love, brother. Appreciate you.
Much love. Thank you.
Peace, everyone.